Happy Sunday. It is Sunday, the 18th of May, 2025, here in the Miraflores district of Lima, Peru. And it is 1500 in the afternoon. And it's time for Chapter 5 of Trapped in Deception. Pride Comes Before the Fall. In this chapter, Shawn's meticulously constructed house of cards starts to shift in the wind. Confidence begins to bleed into arrogance. Even the most calculated con artist can forget that no plan, no matter how perfect it looks on paper, is immune to pressure in the real world. Control is slipping, not because Shawn is careless, but because he's human, and cracks, once they appear, only spread. Chapter 5, Pride Comes Before the Fall. No such thing as a perfect plan. December 22, 2014, 4 p.m. 2 days later, feeling triumphant, Shawn allowed a rare, genuine smile to grace his face as he leaned back in the leather chair of his True Funds office. His ill-gotten fortune lay nestled in offshore accounts and within the confines of a cryptocurrency key on an external hard drive. Untouchable, untraceable. Just 3 days ago, after a shared dinner, he killed Lamont with no more remorse than tossing a used tissue. The world moved forward, oblivious to what had been set in motion. Shawn had to sit at a True Funds terminal himself to steal the cryptocurrency key. He had multiple currencies, gold, and real estate under an assumed name in several places in the United States and internationally. There was also a hidden bunker on his land where he kept an emergency supply of cash, gold, and non-perishable food. The future looked bright for Shawn, but he was not out of the forest yet. Shawn would minimize that risk by dyeing his hair and cutting it very short, while allowing his facial hair to grow. Shawn was well aware that True Funds was involved in illegal activity and associated with rough people. He also knew they would find out what happened. The company would not rely solely on the law to fix issues. They would go private and hire a professional, meaning mercenary or mercenaries. He usually went to bed early, but not tonight. It was a Monday, and he would skip his workout routine for the next 2 days and focus on the mission. It would be a late night. The clock showed 5 minutes to 5 in the afternoon. Shawn needed caffeine. He pressed the buzzer on his desk. "Diane, can you bring me a coffee and some biscuits, please?" Shawn was self-indulgent, and this extended to his beguiling secretary, Diane Furry. At 25, Diane had a magnetic charm. Her light blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders, perfectly complementing her blue eyes that sparkled with intrigue. Her lips were painted bright red, her favorite lipstick. A sun-kissed complexion embraced her form, accentuating the inviting contours seamlessly merging with her professional attire. She always dressed nicely for work. Diane had on a modest pencil skirt, highlighting her physique with more dangerous curves than any race car driver ever faced. It was the finest butt that money could buy, and one that a sugar daddy had gifted, along with her new breasts, just before she dumped him for her next husband. It was a rear end that Shawn knew well, as smooth and firm as an apple, and just as delicious. Unfortunately, Shawn would not be able to take a bite of the forbidden fruit from this woman ever again once the scam was complete. Shawn would reinvent himself for his protection and gain. It didn't matter. There was plenty more fruit out there for him to devour. Diane had a northeastern accent, specifically from Philadelphia, an echo of her origins even as she had established herself in the heart of Texas 2 years ago. She had come a long way from the girl who used to ride the trolley into South Philadelphia in an old pair of jeans to get good deals on 69th Street. Diane was married to a corporate attorney, 30 years her senior. But Michael was exciting, and he cared about her, right? Wrong. Completely wrong, Diane, you dingbat. Sure, he asked her to do little things like share her passwords and door codes, but that was to avoid red tape, right? Diane just lived in the moment, a real social climber. She was unabashedly flirtatious with the men, always pushing the envelope and trying to improve her situation. When a relationship soured, Diane would use the texts, emails, and voicemails sent to her advantage. It was all a part of the game. Mike was the most prominent of the men who had sought after Carlos. The CEO of True Funds had discarded her out of sheer annoyance at her need for constant upkeep. Mike was tall, handsome, well-groomed, and dressed impeccably. Most importantly, he was powerful and could help her to get higher pay and maybe a promotion. Mike treated her like a person, not an object. When he asked her for codes, passwords, and sometimes even correspondence, he explained to her that he was doing this to help his clients. He wanted to see them prosper, just as God wanted others to prosper. Sometimes you had to do what was best for the company, even if it was against the rules. That was what Michael had always told her. Diane worked for a while as the personal assistant to the CEO of True Funds, Mr. Carlos Ortiz, and she was also his squeeze toy for a time. So she had the codes to the doors of his office and all the other places Shawn needed access to. Sure, she was not supposed to have those access codes, but it was just so convenient that she could go run errands for Mr. Ortiz. He had never bothered to change them, even though the relationship had soured. Diane brought the Kopi Luwak coffee with a smile and set it on his desk, carefully pushing it and the saucer a little forward toward Shawn and offering him her nicest smile. The porcelain trinity of the cup, sugar holder, and carafe all bore the hallmark of elegance. Shawn could smell her pleasant perfume, and her red lipstick sparkled under the office lights. Kopi Luwak coffee is obtained from partially digested coffee cherries defecated by Asian palm civets, which resemble monkeys. No wonder this process does not appear on packages the coffee is sold in. What would they say? Our coffee comes from the finest monkey butts in the world? How many sickening things were done to get some of our finest cuisine? Oh well, it sure did taste good, Shawn thought. Diane asked Mike if he was okay, and he smiled pleasantly and said he was fine. He just had a lot of work to do, but would do the rest tomorrow, and for now, he would unwind and tidy things up. Diane left and returned with another porcelain tray with 10 Pierre Herm macaroons perfectly separated. It was well past 4:30 in the afternoon. Most office employees had left for the day. Hey, why don't you take the rest of the day off, Diane? Keep your time normal on your time card. Just go. A gift to you. Get the hell out of here. Shawn delivered a familiar gesture to Diane. A brisk, loud smack. Schmack! Upon the supple curve of her buttocks. Diane giggled and left the room, happy to be leaving early. He retrieved a Cohiba Behik 52 from his Case Elegant cedar humidor on his desk. Shawn wanted the best. But what was a fine cigar without fine whiskey? This would be a crime in and of itself. None of that Guinness beer could be tolerated for such an occasion. From his liquor cabinet, he fished a Macallan 55, which, as the name revealed, was aged 55 years. Shawn plucked 2 ice cubes from the mini-fridge using silver tongs and dropped them into his personalized glass. Having avoided the crime of smoking his finest cigar without his finest whiskey, he returned to the desk, walking across the 2-inch thick blue carpet that smelled like a new automobile purchased from a dealership before someone drove it off of the parking lot and it lost half of its value. Shawn poured a small amount into a glass, swirled it around, and slowly sipped it contemplatively before returning to his desk. The Macallan burned like the summers he'd mowed lawns for a few dollars. He went over the day's events in his head and thought of the next 2 days, which would be pretty busy, and then finished the whiskey in one gulp. He did the same with the coffee. Christmas fell on a Thursday this year, and the office was off, minus the underlings and janitors, who did not count in Shawn's mind because he did not really consider them to be people. Shawn was taking 4 weeks vacation starting Monday. He claimed he was going to Arizona to hunt deer and fish with his cousin on his ranch, which was unfortunately outside of cellular reach, and the cousin was a survivalist who did not have internet. The best lies hugged the truth close, which would typically throw off a fact-checker who suspected nefarious intent. The reality was that Shawn was indeed from Arizona and was adopted. Shawn tracked down his birth parents. He had intended to sue them as a punishment for the difficult life he endured, but he found out that this would never hold up in court. His adoptive parents were both now dead. His adoptive father was once a wealthy man, but greed, a characteristic that the father seemed to have passed to his non-biological son, got the better of him, and he spent time in jail for the misappropriation of funds from his construction business. The father told anyone who asked that he was not guilty, and his partner did all the illegal things, although he was caught red-handed. During his youth, his adoptive father had learned the fine art of pickpocketing, breaking into vehicles, and, of course, bullshit. Shawn's father did gain some sympathy from inmates in the federal prison, where he served 2 years. Shawn placed the cigar in an ashtray on the desk, reached into his breast pocket, and retrieved a caliber .70 18 cigar cutter by S.T. DuPont, along with the S.T. DuPont Lean to Champagne Gold and Diamond lighter. Shawn cut the cigar and lit it. The cutter and lighter had the initials S.L. engraved on them, which elicited curiosity from inquirers. When asked about the initials, Shawn would lie. Sam Leonard, a dear friend who died in Iraq in 2003. Sam's family gave me these as a reminder of our shared times. Shawn's eyes often filled with tears as he told the story, and his hands went to his face. Harold Stivey, a co-worker who had served as the S2, which is intelligence officer, of an Army Reserve Military Police Battalion, which followed after the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force during Operation Enduring Freedom I, asked Shawn many questions, which Shawn parried like a boxing champion. Sometimes Harold would twist his head and narrow his eyes at the stories that Shawn told. Harold was no fool. Although a relentless patriot to the world, Shawn was not a veteran. He had never even considered serving in the armed forces. His exclamations to everyone were filled with his deepest regret. Shawn knew better than to pretend to be a veteran when he was not. It raised too many questions from too many people. Shawn claimed he never served in the military because of asthma. Shawn continued to go over his plan again and again in his mind, occasionally smiling at his own cunning. He kept this up for about 1 hour, making sure there were no gaps, with intermittent puffs on his cigar. Thank you for listening. There's a reason the phrase, "pride comes before the fall," has survived for generations. Shawn isn't failing yet, but the first fissure in his armor is visible. He's relying too heavily on timing, on people, and on circumstances he can't fully control. He's still the architect of the plan, but now he has to face the truth. No structure built on deception can stand forever. Thank you for listening to Chapter 5 of Trapped in Deception. For updates, please join my mailing list at kenweb69.com. And today I have a special shout out to Anna Otero. She's a member of my writing group here in Miraflores. Yesterday, the 17th of May, 2025, was her birthday. We won't get into the age thing. Be good to your wife, be good to your husbands, be good to your friends, and be good to yourselves. Let other people be imperfect and understand that you can never be perfect. You're a work in process. Be grateful for the good, and don't forget to go to church today. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.